so that when she gets HPV and then gets deadly cervical cancer, she can sue you.
Yeah.
That's what the pediatrician said. When she gets HPV and she gets cervical cancer, she can sue you.
Such an
I'm
out
gonna
of
note
line,
that.
over the top statement to make aloud to a parent. Hello, Mama.
Hello, Daddy.
We're coming off of a fresh little breastfeeding session. Jumped in here to join you guys and have a...
It's weird because the baby's not in here right now, so it just sounded really wrong.
Yeah, I regret that statement. I take it back. No, we had baby Micah in here. We are trying to figure this out. Like we mentioned last week to you guys, we got our quick little breastfeeding session in. We were hoping that maybe he was going to fall asleep. That did not happen. And they came in here to grab him. So we are jumping right into this very riveting parenting themed discussion here today.
Yeah.
How you feeling about it?
I'm feeling good.
You pumped? You excited?
I'm so pumped.
Not fatigued whatsoever?
Not at all.
I spent 3 nights this week sleeping on the couch. Not because Melissa made me, but because I picked up a little head cold. And in order to keep that from baby Micah, because he co-sleeps ordinarily with Melissa and I in bed, I was displaced to the living room, to the couch where
I did not argue.
I did not get great rest. So I am slightly fatigued, even more so than usual with the baby. But regardless, we're going to power through.
Yeah, but that was really nice of you to sleep on the couch to protect the baby. It kind of went through the whole family. We've had this weird little mild cold in the house for about 2 weeks now. And of course, in true Sousa fashion, it's like every 4 days somebody gets it instead of everyone just getting it at once. And it was literally my worst fear was a virus entering the house when the baby was a newborn. And that's exactly what happened when he was like 2 weeks old.
That's been our week this week.
Yeah, but he didn't get it and I didn't get it. So fingers crossed. It's out of the house now.
Hey, you do what you have to do as a parent.
Yep.
Right? Always. Even if it means sleeping.
Even if it means kicking your husband to the couch.
On the couch. Anyway, let's jump into today's parenting themed conversation. I did a lot of crying when we came in here last week. I got a little hyper emotional as I usually do. People were telling me that I was being hormonal. And yeah, maybe so.
People said you were being hormonal?
Just one person.
But that stuck with you. That one just...
It stood out and it may very well be true. But I want to begin today's discussion by seeing if I can't bring a little emotion out of you, Mama. I found an Instagram post. You'll be proud of me. I found this very sweet...
Did you get on
Instagram post. I actually heard this on the Patrick Bet David podcast, so I can't take credit for it. But I thought it was so cool. I was mowing the lawn listening to this. I was like, oh, that's nice.
Were you crying?
I was not crying while mowing the lawn, but I thought it was cool. You know, we have a lot of talks, you and I, about trying to remain as present as possible in our day-to-day lives, and especially when it comes to family and the kids and all that. So let me read this little excerpt for you here. It's very short, I promise you all. And let's see if we can't drag just some slight emotion out of Mama Bear here. So it says, point of view. I got to get my voice. I got to check in here. I got to try to make it as powerful as possible. Crying. I'm not going to cry. I don't think. Let's find out. Point of view. I'm 80 years old and God let me wake up in my 35-year-old body again. I wake up to little feet pounding down the hallway. They're yelling, Mommy, like it's the best word in the world. I gasp. I cry. I see them run in. My babies. They're little again. I grab them and hold them close, the babies I used to rush through bedtime with. I inhale them. I don't let them go. Not this time. I catch my reflection in the mirror. No gray hair, no deep wrinkles, just tired eyes.
That makes me cry.
But wow, I was so beautiful and I never saw it. I see my husband, young, strong, smiling at me like he used to. We laugh at something small. I memorize every line on his face. I walk outside barefoot just to feel the grass again. I stretch. I breathe. It feels so good to be alive in this body. No aches, no pain. I get on the floor with my kids. No distractions, no phone, just me, fully present, laughing, building, pretending. They light up, and I do too. Dinner is loud and messy. Someone spills their cup. Someone makes everyone laugh. There's chaos and crumbs and so much joy. I'm there for every second of it. Bath and bedtime used to feel like a chore, but now I soak it in. The splash of the water, the scent of the baby shampoo, the way their face looks wrapped in the towel. I'm not rushing anymore. I don't want to forget a single second. God gave me one more shot, And this time I won't waste it rushing through the little things. They were always the big things.
That's sad. Yeah, I mean,
Come on, do it. No,
it's sad.
Look at me.
I know.
Let them fall.
So it's sad, but it's good because, like, yeah, like we were saying, we kind of got that second chance. That would have like ripped my heart out had we not had Micah.
No, but it's such a great reminder, right? It's so well put. I don't know who
Yeah.
I can credit with writing that, but it's so true. We take for granted these seemingly mundane day-to-day interactions that we have with each other as family members and with our children as parents. I thought it was such a great reminder. After I heard that, little things that would like bug me or even make me a little irate in the moment, like with the kids, I became
like
so
corner
much more,
wrappers.
Well, no, I told you, and I told Eli as well. Eli got these little, little pop-it things, the little firework things that you throw all over the place that usually
apparently he's making a bomb.
riddle our entire property. Melissa helped him purchase
50 boxes.
This massive Costco-sized box full of them, thousands of them. And I told them specifically, I was like, do not let me find these all over the place. Don't let me find the plastic and the boxes everywhere. Make sure you're cleaning up after yourself. These are the types of discussions that I, unfortunately, am guilty of as a parent. So I'm mowing the lawn, listening to this. And what do I encounter all over the place while mowing our 25-acre property here? The plastic, the pop-its, the cardboard boxes that were blowing all over the place.
Okay,
and I was
to
like,
be fair,
I can stop and I can be like, hey, Eli, remember what I just told you? But instead, I took a breath. I reverted back to this very thing that I was listening to. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to miss this one day. And I know I discussed this with you. I'm like, hey, imagine if we didn't have Micah 20 years from now, what life has the potential to look like for you and I here on this big, lonely property, just you and I. Maybe a little sick of each other at that point.
What?
I'm joking. I would never tire of you, Mama. But you know what I mean? If it were just
who will make your sandwiches
over the decades, if it were just you and I, that has the potential to be very, very lonely and not nearly as fulfilling as we are blessed to call our day-to-day life right now. Yeah,
like yes, the house won't be messy and the yard won't have wrappers in it, and you won't have anyone to bark at about little corner wrappers. Eli has this bad habit of like ripping just the corner off of like every single thing he eats, and then
everywhere.
But when all of that is gone, like you will miss it. You will be like, there's no wrappers. Everything's perfect.
I know that because there are a number of examples that I can cite that remind me of that on a daily basis, which is why it's been so nice having Micah because
More
there
wrappers.
but there hasn't been a single instance thus far of either one of us becoming like, oh my gosh, the baby won't stop crying, or the baby needs another diaper change, or any of that. We just cherish and relish every single moment. Yeah. And we referenced it last week, but we have that experience to draw upon now. So thought I'd open with that. You got a little weepy eyed.
Yeah.
No tears running down the face, which is what I was hoping for, but hey, we do what we can.
Well, Micah, I think, has prevented that, but I mean, a year ago when we were having this discussion, or 2 years ago when we were having this discussion, like I was really struggling with that. And because I just felt like it was over at this point. Like, yes, Eli's still a little boy. He's still 10 years old, but 2 years from now, he's not a little boy anymore. Like I know 10 to 12, everything changes.
A lot of changes.
So that would have been really difficult. But yeah, I think that it's so common for society in general to paint parenthood, fatherhood, and motherhood as more of a burden.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's by design, but I did something that I saw on Instagram. Actually, somebody typed in, if I wanted to destroy the nuclear family, what would I do? Like, if I were the devil and I wanted to destroy the nuclear family, how would I do it? Right. And they put it in a chat GPT. And the list that came up was, don't we have that list?
We did.
Did you throw it away?
I may have gotten rid of it. We were going to discuss that on a prior episode before you gave birth, but it basically laid out exactly what it is that we find in our culture and society today.
It was like, I would put into the minds of men and women the idea of being independent and being self-focused. And I would tell society that it is a burden, that you can't achieve your dreams if you become a parent. Like all of these things that are being fed to people. I would perpetuate the lie of overpopulation, of greenhouse emissions, like all of these things. And I thought it was funny coming from Chat GPT because it is all the stuff that we hear. And there are so many people that are younger that think like, oh, I'm saving the planet, or I'm going to further myself by not becoming a parent. And they miss out on the best parts of who we can become.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I was listening to another podcast. I don't remember who it was, but they were actually citing a Muslim Islamic belief, which obviously I'm not Muslim, but I thought the sentiment was spot on to where, so many people seem to think that children inhibit them from finding their full potential, like you mentioned a second ago. And this little excerpt that was referenced basically suggested that, hey, you don't know. You can never achieve that self-fulfillment without having a child. And especially from a financial aspect, I guess there's some Muslim belief that states that you cannot find any earthly riches or financial success without having children, because it serves as the driving force behind your day-to-day motivations and wanting to do more. And I definitely found that to be the case. I mean, if I was a single guy, I'd be living so simply. I'd probably be like in a little truck camper, cruising around thinking
That's
that,
what
hey,
you would do with yourself?
Look at the freedom that I've facilitated for myself. But there'd be no real true fulfillment. But I know that because I alternatively, I have the life. We have the life that we've been incredibly blessed with, to where it takes more than that to fill my cup. And without it, I don't know where I would be. And it's the devil's trick to convince you of this belief that no, you are better off without children. And it's so unfortunate that is perpetuated in this narrative that we have specifically here in the US in our society.
Well, we're starting to see a shift now. I think with social media now, you're seeing a lot more of motherhood and fatherhood and all of that being celebrated. But there's still that portion of it where it's not. And there's that kids steal your pink, that whole like flamingo thing.
No, never heard that.
So when a mother flamingo has babies, she loses her pink. Like she's not pink anymore.
Her color.
Yeah. And so literally, but they call it losing your pink. And so they're like, all of these women are posting these videos of like their baby. And then they're like, I lost my pink. Like I'm not. And then they'll show the slideshow of like who they were before. And most of the time they're just like in these tiny little sequin dresses, like out ripping it up at the club. And it's like, that was your pink. That was what made you who you were. Now you have this beautiful child and you're seeing it as a burden. And then I've seen people respond to it saying, I didn't lose my pink. She just borrowed it. And then they'll show a slideshow of their daughter dressed in like all these pink outfits.
Yeah.
And it's so cute. Because the mother flamingos do regain their color, but when they're nurturing their young, it's like I don't know if it's a nutrient drop or something that causes that to happen to the flamingos, but it's become this now symbol of motherhood. And like, I feel like I gain my color and my pink when I have babies. Like I was starting to feel very kind of lost, because just motherhood is what I did for the past 19 years. And I felt like they didn't need me anymore. And I was starting to feel like, well, who am I? And I know that's something that all women and probably men kind of confront is, well, who am I now? Yeah. And now that like I have another baby in my arms, I'm like, oh, there I am. Like I feel at home now.
Yeah, it's a great metaphor, and it becomes such a part of our individual identities. But for married couples like us, it becomes it just becomes who you are and what you do on a day-to-day basis becomes so ingrained within you, to where when that begins to subside, you start feeling empty, like you're someone's chipping away at that sense of purpose that you have. Really interesting. Do you think that that's somewhat generational? I'm so happy to see that there's a resurgence of people who are very passionate about not just becoming parents, but having large families. Because the way that I grew up, I think the message was the opposite. I don't know if that was unique to our family, but children were always, I think, thought of and just brought up in a way that depicted them as being more so just a burden upon you, to borrow your word.
Yeah, well, I think like maybe in that World War II generation, they seemed to have a lot of children, but at the same time, money was a little tighter. They were coming out of the Great Depression, coming out of the war. And so maybe children were legitimately more of a strain on the family. And then that generation grew up to kind of feel that way, because when we were children of the 80s and the 90s, a lot of people were only having 1 or 2 children. Like our parents' generation, there were large families, but it was more rare.
They were the exception, and you always grabbed a lot of attention. Like, wow, that's a really big family. Yeah. Remember when you and I were driving through town? There was this mother who was unloading her kids out of one of those big church vans.
Yeah.
And we drove by, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of kids. And Melissa looks over at me, she goes, she had 5 kids. I was like,
that's literally what we look like now.
I guess that's us.
Yeah, and I think you're seeing these large families come back, and I love it. I think it's great. There is a belief that you can't properly love and care for more than 3 kids. I've seen that kind of pushed around too. Like if you have more than 3, and you used to say that. You used to say if you had too many kids, there's no way you could give them attention.
I used to say, what was that TV show of the
19 Kids and Counting?
No, the other one with the Mormon family, the polygamous family. It was on TLC. It was one of those shows where he had 4 wives.
Sister Wives.
Sister Wives. I used to always become the intro to that TV show.
Well, that was about wives, not children.
But still, I'd say the same thing still applies because you do reach a point. The more kids you have, for sure, they get less of that individual attention. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. I'm not saying that, but it does. There was a line in the intro to that TV show where it was love should be multiplied, not divided. I'm like, you're literally dividing your
between 4 wives,
your spousal affections and love amongst 4 wives. What are you talking about? You're doing the opposite of that. That's so I just make statements like that. Yeah. But yeah, I think when it comes to kids, that shouldn't deter you in any way because collectively, I think there's so much to be gained from having a large family, and everybody feeds off of each other, especially the siblings. Yeah. But yeah, it does suck. The amount of time that you have to devote to each individual child. And we don't say any of this to do you believe that you can live a happy and very fulfilled life as not a single or married person without having any children?
I think a lot of people can.
Sure.
I couldn't personally because.
But you know that because you have kids.
But it was just always what I wanted to do. Even when I was little, it was all about baby dolls, and I would put them in my shirt and stuff like that so I could carry them around. I had to do skin to skin with the dolls. I mean, I don't know. It's just always who I've been. I used to sleep with my baby dolls. I was co-sleeping before I had kids.
Yeah, I think you can be very happy as a childless person, but you don't know.
Could you? Let's say you met me and I was I don't ever want to have kids, and it was just you and I. Do you think, would you be?
I think fulfilled? I could, I could have been very contented with that. But knowing what I know now, again, it's just one of those things based on experience, right? You don't know what you don't know. And it's why having a child is so transformational for so many people, because you're all of a sudden, you're like, oh my God, look at what I was missing out on. This is life altering, and the world just takes on new meaning, and there's nothing more impactful or powerful. At least that hasn't been the case for myself. As you guys know, over the past few years, we've been cleaning up our diets and educating ourselves on the lies and deceptions in the food and supplement industries. I've been taking protein powder since I was a teenager and realized that whey proteins can not only cause gut inflammation, but oftentimes contains fillers, additives, and artificial sweeteners.
Yeah, it's not exactly what you want in your diet when you're trying to add healthy protein, which is what led us to Equip Prime Protein. It's an all-natural grass-fed beef protein that provides the nutrition of 4 ounces of beef, which is 20 grams of protein in every single scoop.
Yeah, it's very clean tasting and comes in some great flavors, including vanilla, chocolate, peanut butter, salted caramel, strawberry, and even iced coffee. So they're perfect for adding to your coffee, a smoothie, or just a protein shake with water or your favorite milk.
Yeah, the strawberry is my absolute go-to for our daily fruit smoothies, and having that added protein during my pregnancy and now during my recovery has been so helpful. But what I really love about Equip is that they value transparency, quality, and customer well-being above anything else. They not only source the cleanest ingredients, but they also add none of the junk, and everything is clearly laid out on the label, so I know exactly what I'm putting in my body.
Prime Protein has been such a game changer for us. We know that you guys are going to love it too. And you can trust that it is the cleanest protein on the market. Equip is giving our viewers an incredible offer. Just head to our link down in the description below, or go to equipfoods.com/NWOS and use our promo code NWOS to get 20% off your first order, or even better, combine this offer with a subscription and get 35% off your first subscription.
So we're all feeling it. Costs are rising on everything: gas, groceries, home repairs. And if you are a homeowner, you've probably thought, should I call American Financing to refinance and pay off that credit card debt? Then you second guess yourself because of that low mortgage rate that you currently have.
So listen, that low rate, it's not necessarily saving you if you're drowning in credit card interest at 25% or more. That's the math no one wants to face, but it's costing you thousands.
Yeah, here's the truth. If you're only making minimum payments, that debt is going to follow you for years. And that's why people are calling American Financing, because they are saving customers on average $800 a month by using the equity in their home to finally break free from their credit card debt.
Listen, you owe it to yourself and your family to see what's possible. No upfront fees, no pressure. It costs you nothing to find out what you could save every month. And if you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments.
Just call American Financing today, 866-885-8027. That's 866-885-8027. Or go to americanfinancing.net/New World. Well, I think there's definitely people that don't have that drive or they don't have that feeling. And if you don't, then that's totally fine.
So
I'm not that person.
If you don't want to have kids, I actually don't think you should have kids. But I mean, life is funny. And if you happen to be bestowed with such a blessing, I think you should embrace it.
If you get surprised by that, even if you don't want to have kids.
Because it happens.
Yeah.
Ask me how I know.
Yeah, you weren't thinking kids at 23.
No.
So
we have 5 children and only
one was planned.
One of them was planned.
Well, maybe we suck.
Shout out Kaimani.
Yeah, we planned Kaimani. That was it. Maybe we're just not very good with like birth control and all that.
Apparently not.
I don't know.
But
we've been kind of casual with it at the same time. So, I mean, that's what happens.
This is taking an interesting turn here. No, so great to start out with that. It served as such a great reminder. And again, this isn't a knock on anybody out there who doesn't have kids. And I know we've been doing a lot of parental discussion.
Yeah, just talking about
on the pod, but it's where we're at, and we're trying to, I'm really trying to remain and hold on to this very special time that we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
It's so blissful. We've mentioned last week. I'm trying not to lose it. I don't want it to slip.
There's
through my grasp.
A lot of encouragement to go again. People are like, let's go. Micah needs a friend. We have so much. Okay, we don't even need pressure from you guys. We have so much pressure from Nevaeh. She says it like every 5 minutes.
I know.
She'll have another baby, have another baby.
Let's make her the next one. No time soon, but let's
not encourage that. She's not even 19. At what
age? We had a discussion. At what age do you think, what's a good time for young people to consider having their first child? Because I asked you about generationally. It seems like that number spiked maybe in our parents' generation.
Yeah.
And then it was fully embraced. Like I remember when we were young, people were like, don't have a kid until you're like 30.
That was what was encouraged.
Maybe even 35.
Yeah.
We started really young at 23.
Yeah.
And there were some drawbacks to that, especially because it was unexpected. But we know, even Nevaeh has friends that are relatively the same age she is, slightly older maybe, but they're fully embracing having children, which initially my reaction was like,
we're seeing a lot of 18, 19, 20-year-olds having babies, a lot of them.
I don't know about that, but to their credit, if it is their heart's desire, I don't necessarily see anything wrong with it so long as they're doing what needs to be done as parents.
Well, and I think that's all generational too. So like our grandparents' generation got married really young. They were getting married at 17, 18, 19 years old, and they were starting families right away. My mom had her first child at 19, and she's in her 70s now. And I don't think that was really weird in the 60s to have a child at 19.
I think the cool thing is, and we brought this up with her too, is like at some point, God willing, we're all happy and healthy for a really long time. And there will come a point, because especially with like Nevaeh, we had her so young, that we will all be old people together, which is funny to think about.
I know that will be weird. I don't know. When we had a baby at 23, we did it. We grew up really fast. I look at that person now and say, okay, we were just kids.
Yeah.
Mentally, we were kids. When we got married at 25, I still feel like mentally we were kids. That's a good age, I think, to start having kids. But it matters how big do you want a family to be. Do you want to have a lot of kids? Then you're going to need to start in your 20s. If you only want to have 1 or 2 kids, it's okay to start in your 30s. But if you start in your 30s and you think you're going to have 5 or 6 kids, that's going to be tricky. So
there are perks and drawbacks to each. We've been talking a lot about
depends on the person,
whether or not we're going to have enough energy, enough spunk within us to keep up with little kids the older we get.
Yeah. But then I saw somebody commented that their parents were older. Yeah. Did you read that comment?
I think I know the one you're talking about.
And they said that, yes, my parents didn't have the same energy when they were raising me and they were in their 50s and 60s, but they had so much more patience and love and understanding that's the comment you were thinking
Yeah,
of?
it was so powerful. I
It
actually
was.
love that comment. Thank you to the person that left
Yeah.
that comment, because it was I do become very fixated on that part of it. And I think it was directed more so at me based on
It's
what I
not
said
all
in the
energy.
last episode.
Sometimes
Right,
just
right.
being there and having that understanding. Like I feel like we're going to be so much more balanced with Micah
Yeah.
than we were with Nevaeh. We were like hyper crazy and young and inexperienced with Nevaeh. Like she had to experience us growing up.
Yes.
And that's rough for a kid when you're growing up with your parents.
Yeah.
Like we did all of our maturing and becoming an adult as we were trying to figure out raising her.
Like I said, there are benefits and drawbacks to each. I think when you're having a kid in your 20s, yeah, you're full of energy. You can keep up. You can work the full-time gig like I was doing at the time and still have time to come home and put on that father hat. But the older you get, you start losing that, but you have wisdom at the same time.
Right.
You learn so much along the way. And I think
And
you do have
patience.
so much to offer. Like that person was saying in their comment of like, I think they said something along the lines of like, my father taught me what it was to show love to, there's just so much wisdom to be gained along the way. And it was a beautiful remark. It was one of the few comments that I actually responded to.
We're like grandparents. Like how your grandparents are so patient and like everyone goes, wow, like I look at my dad as a grandparent and he is so different as a grandpa than he was as a dad.
Yeah,
as a
same.
dad, he was not as patient. He was not as like, I mean, he did sit us down and like have these heart to hearts with us, but seeing him as a grandpa, he's so much more chill.
Yeah.
He had kind of like zero chill when we were kids.
Same is true for my dad, right?
Yeah.
I tell you like the stories, like, yeah, my dad was here on the podcast. If you guys happen to catch that episode, it was great to reflect upon just life growing up with my dad, who was a single father. And, there have been moments along the way, this where, when I was in my 20s and I was in my 30s and I was getting irate with things like we mentioned earlier, like just the messes that were made where he looked at me and was like, hey, like, calm down. It's going to be okay.
He tells you that all the time when he sees you get like chippy with the kids.
Much like what it is that I just read, I think he has that he has that knowledge now. He has that wisdom, and I appreciate it in the moment. Where I'm sure I will be the same way.
I think you'll do it with Kaimani and
I guarantee
and
it.
Eli and Micah, depending on his personality. But Kaimani is so much like you that I think he's going to parent exactly like you as well.
And I'm very much like my dad was when he was a young father.
Yeah, these generational trends.
Yes.
And then when you see him snapping at one of your grandkids or something for something little that you're going to know is not going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
You're going to tell him to calm down.
And I do it already, when they start going back and forth with each other.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey,
This doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. Relax. Let's drop this, move on, take a chill pill.
Yeah.
It's really interesting how all of that just evolves over time.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. So, I mean, parenting is such a blessing, but then there's challenges with it too. And then I think there's challenges with it just in society also. So this is totally off topic, but I was just watching like this whole Candace Owens, she came back on her podcast.
Yeah,
and it
let's
caught my
jump into
attention.
this. You brought this to my attention.
Yeah. So I also feel with social media, people have become a little nosier and society has become a little nosier when it comes to how people parent because everybody parents so differently. I can see something and be like, I would never do that, but they're also not harming their child and that's just their parenting style.
Yeah.
Like gentle parenting, for example.
Right.
Okay, so where were we? What trip were we on? Hawaii? When the mom was on the ground talking to her kid, trying to coax him back.
Was that at the beach? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was at the acai place in Hawaii. So we go to Hawaii and there's this child that appeared to be 3 or 4 on the ground having a complete tantrum, a melting ice cream. Like it looked really expensive and fancy on the table. Something about this treat did not please the child. So he's laying on this dirty ass sidewalk with like gum, spit, people's shoes, having a tantrum. Mom is on the ground, getting down to his level, trying to coax him back up to eat his sweet treat.
Completely ineffective.
And I'm walking by like, I would take his ice cream and I would throw it in the garbage. And I would be like, I'm grateful.
You talk a big game. You would never do that.
I would never get on a sidewalk. I would yank my child up so fast. One, there's germs on the sidewalk and it's for his own good, but also like this gentle parenting is just not us.
Yeah.
But we've never really had to do that because we set this expectation early. This is how you behave. If you do this, ice cream goes in the garbage and you're not getting more. And it's created a better atmosphere of like, these are the expectations. our kids know that if they were to collapse on the sidewalk, that their ice cream would get thrown in the garbage.
Yeah. There's zero pandering.
That would never happen.
No.
And so I see gentle parenting and I'm like, mm-mm. But yet they're not harming their child. It's none of my business, so I don't say anything. I mean,
you're so judgy.
Everybody is. Everybody is judgy. No, that's true. Everybody's judgy. If like people are judging me for not putting a hat on my baby in 75 degrees because apparently air isn't supposed to go in their ear canal. People judge us for not putting socks on our baby.
Yeah.
If I post a picture, like literally, like I'll just be changing the baby and he'll be making a cute face and then I'll take a picture and it's like between outfit changes or like the fact that your baby is always naked means I'm not going to watch you anymore.
No, there's no,
everybody does
there's no one correct way of doing things, right? I mean, you can go about things however you want.
Socks or no
I'm
socks.
not saying we're the best parents. In fact, I've been on here in the podcast with tears in my eyes proclaiming that, no, I have not been the best father. I've not been the best potential father to my kids over the years.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm a bad dad in any way, but we all have regrets.
But gentle parenting isn't your style.
Gentle parenting is not my style, and it's probably because of how I grew up, how you pretty much mostly grew up. Your parents were more tolerant than my father was.
My dad was like, he found humor in things. He was really good at like finding the humor.
Yeah.
Like I think seeing the innocent side of what we were doing wrong, he'd be like, they're just being kids. He was pretty good at that. He was never going to get on the ground and lay down and gentle parent us back into a chair.
No.
So there was a line, So,
no, but I think you're right. Being stern up front and setting the expectation. I think that was yesterday. I told you, how often do I ever have to reprimand our kids? Well, almost never.
Yeah.
It's such a rarity. Like maybe once a year with each kid, minus one of them because it was just more complex.
He's a little tornado.
No.
Messy.
No. I wasn't. I was referring to. Nevaeh's getting older.
She's also a tornado.
That presents unique challenges. Love you, Nevaeh. If you're watching this, don't be mad at me. It's different when you're trying to now serve more so as a mentor to your adult child.
Problems become bigger the older they get because they're more serious.
Those challenges broaden, and you're trying to provide guidance now rather than trying to instill discipline. Let's say, right? Would you agree with that?
I feel like gentle parenting is more important as they get older.
Yeah, I'm learning that.
Yeah, you can give them your advice, and you have to make your thoughts clear, but you can't force them to do it. But I definitely want them to understand, like, I said this.
we're getting sidetracked here, but my point was that I think there's such tremendous value, and like people always remark in public and online about how well behaved our kids are, and say, because that's the expectation. They better be. They should be. If we're out in public, you are to conduct yourself properly in the way that we've trained and taught and instilled in you over the years. We're at a restaurant, you were to be respectful. You were to use please and thank you. You were to sit quietly, respectfully, so that you're not agitating anybody around you. I think minimally expectations like that, it makes for a happier day-to-day life. Your kids know what's expected. I think they take a sense of pride in the process. And so, that's the way we've always gone about things. Again, not to say that we're perfect parents, because we are not. We're learning just like everybody else is. And there's more than one way to effectively parent your child. But in situations like that, where you're not doing anything, this kid's on the ground freaking out. You're trying to be the soft, gentle parent, and it is completely ineffective. Maybe try a different strategy, maybe.
Well, it's kind of been a whole thing of like, get down on their level and all of this stuff.
Yeah, I get it. There's a time and place for that.
I feel like that's not necessarily what kids are looking for. They're not looking for peers. They're looking for guidance.
Yes.
They want to know what's expected of them. Little kids are kind of like puppies that sounds weird, but they want to know what's expected, and they want to know what is the schedule. They want to know. They don't like mystery.
Right.
They like a schedule. They like expectations.
They like structure.
Yes. And so when they have that, they feel comforted in that, and then they know what's expected of them, and they're able to do that peacefully.
Yeah, there's reassurance in that.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think when a kid's flipping out and a parent's like, oh, hey, little Billy, what's going on? I think it's frustrating for the kid.
Yeah, you're causing more chaos in an already chaotic situation.
Yeah.
And then when they're being really chaotic and then you're being really chaotic, like your kid starts yelling and you start panicking, you're just adding to the chaos. You need to be the calm in the storm as a parent, as a grown-up.
Okay, we are off in the weeds. You referenced Candace Owens, which is something you wanted to touch upon here. Explain. Go ahead.
Okay, so Candace Owens, when she had her second child...
Recently.
No, she's had her third
previously.
child. She
You're
had
right,
her
sorry.
second child, her daughter. She was threatened with like CPS from the hospital because she wanted to get the heck out of the hospital. She's like, I'm good, let's go, which is always how I was in my hospital birth. So I was like, oh, let's get out of here. I'm
Pulling
removing
your
my own
IV
IV out. I'm discharging us. I'm like, discharge papers.
Which you are completely in your right to do.
Right.
Yeah.
You are not required to go to the hospital, so they can't just keep you. But they like to keep you for 48 hours. I don't know if it's for insurance purposes, like they get to bill another day.
I'm sure there's some financial incentive behind it.
Yeah, because I noticed that they would want to keep you over that 24-hour mark, and then they were like, okay, now you got to go because we want to give the room away. But they got to bill for 2 days.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's everybody, but that was something I noticed, and that's what she's claiming as well. She also refused the blood test, which checks for like a bunch of different childhood things, spina bifida and like all kinds of stuff. She didn't want to do that because she didn't want to give her child's blood to who knows who, who's now going to have their DNA and
You're
everything.
within your parental right to refuse.
Yeah, you don't have to give your child's blood.
Yes.
And then she also refused the eye goopies, which, yeah, please, as a parent, educate yourself on what the eye goopy is for, because think of how uncomfortable that is. You're born, you're trying to see, everything's already blurry, and then they're like, what?
What's the explained purpose behind that?
It's for syphilis, I believe. So it's I believe that's what it's for. So the funny thing is these mothers are tested for it. So even though they're negative,
Despite that.
they put it on every single child born. When your baby is born and they get the big goop on the eyes, it's an antibacterial gel, which is to prevent blindness in the case of the mother having this STD passing through the birth canal. They even do it to C-section babies.
Doesn't it seem like it's a little late at that point, though? I mean, child's already
You would think they'd already be exposed to it.
Yeah.
Either way, almost all moms are negative. They are tested for this. Or if they're not tested, then test the moms. And if needed, treat the babies, but to just treat all the babies.
This is a bigger discussion to go along with all the immunizations and everything else.
Well, and then she refused vitamin K, which it sounds harmless. Vitamin K. I was like, it's just a vitamin shot.
If you're unfamiliar with that, literally immediately upon your child being born, they will, I want to say they will ask, but sometimes they'll just take it upon themselves to jab baby with some vitamin
They
K.
didn't ask us.
The reason being,
all babies are born vitamin K deficient. Now, are they actually deficient, or is this God's perfect design? I like to believe that the vitamin K deficiency is God's perfect design, because if you are patient, like in the case of a midwife, where they let the placenta be expelled, and then they leave the baby hooked up to their umbilical cord and their placenta until the cord stops pumping, 1/3 of the baby's blood is in the placenta, and this is filled with millions or billions of stem cells. Now, stem cells cannot make it through the body when they have coagulated blood. And when they're giving the vitamin K injection, they are giving a baby like 200 times more vitamin K than an adult walks around with. It's so much vitamin K that it kind of coagulates and thickens the blood.
right?
The blood is supposed to be thin, which is why babies are born deficient in vitamin K, or actually with the perfect amount of vitamin K for a newborn, so that when that blood from the placenta makes it into the baby filled with all of those amazing stem cells, the stem cells can travel around to any areas of trauma that were caused by the birth. So let's say the baby had trauma from their, in their skull or in their head, or bruising. I mean, look at a baby's face when they're born. They're puffy, they're bruised around the eyes. The birth canal is very squeezy. And a lot of babies have, the shoulder dysplasia or all kinds of different things. They are having their umbilical cord cut, and that umbilical cord needs to heal. Those stem cells rush around the body through that nice thin blood for the first 8 days of their life and heal birth trauma. When you give them the vitamin K and you cut that umbilical cord immediately, all of that goes away.
As parents, we love what Angel Studios stands for. It's entertainment made for folks like us, families, believers, people who feel like Hollywood's forgotten them. And Angel is another heartfelt story, The Last Rodeo, starring one of our favorites, Neil McDonough. It's actually in theaters right now and was the last fantastic movie that we saw together as a family.
Yeah, you guys know that we are a rodeo-loving, bull riding enthusiast family, so we were so excited when The Last Rodeo hit theaters. It tells the powerful story of a former PBR champion who returns to bull riding later in life to help save his grandson. And it features real-life PBR legends as well, which makes it all the more meaningful and real.
So if you become a premium member of the Angel Guild, that's the group that helps choose which films Angel Studios makes, you'll get 2 free tickets to see The Last Rodeo and 2 free tickets to every future Angel theatrical release as well. Angel. Just head over to angel.com/NWOS to sign up and grab your tickets.
And while you're there, you can stream more Neil McDonough stories like Homestead and The Shift only on Angel. It's a growing library made for families just like ours.
There are already over 1 million Americans in the Angel Guild helping to shape the future of entertainment, and we're just so glad and proud to be a part of that. Just go to angel.com/NWOS to become a member today, and let's help bring more uplifting stories into the world and claim your free tickets to the Last Rodeo.
All right, let's talk about the poison in the water, the kind that they don't tell you about, the kind that doesn't go away, the kind that comes from toxic industrial waste that leaches into our water supply called PFAS, or forever chemicals. Because once they are in you or in your soil or in the rivers, they stay and they never break down.
Here's the ugly truth. Up to 95 million Americans have them in their drinking water, and they've been linked to all sorts of issues like cancer, hormonal effects, and developmental issues with children, which is a massive concern for our family.
Yeah, as parents of now 5 children, including a newborn, we're not taking any risks. And that's why we purify our water with the best filtration system on the market called Cove Pure. Not only is it third-party tested to remove over 99% of PFAS, but with Cove Pure, we can be confident that our drinking water is free of heavy metals, fluoride, arsenic, and thousands of other contaminants.
So what about bottled waters? Surely they're perfectly clean. Well, unfortunately, no. Researchers have actually discovered that 38% of U.S. bottled water samples had PFAS in them. That's the same poison, now with the added bonus of microplastics. Most of it is just repackaged tap water or groundwater sold back to you at a 1,000% markup.
And what we love about Cove Pure is it not only gives you the most pure water possible, it also heats water instantly for hot tea, or it chills water instantly for a glass of perfect drinking water. Our whole family is completely obsessed with this thing.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. And clean water is one of the best investments that you can make for you and your family. And because we're partnered with them, they're giving you $200 off if you use our link down in the description below. covepure.com/NWOS. That's COVEPURE.com/NWOS to learn more. So we've done the vitamin K shot in the past. I don't recall whether or not that was even a discussion.
It was a discussion with both of the home births.
This is one of the, with the home births, totally different story. Micah had his placenta attached for like an hour.
Yeah, it was attached for a long time,
even in the birth vlog video, if you want to call it that. That entire moment where Melissa's now in bed and Micah's with her.
He was nursing and his cord was still pumping blood in him.
He's still attached. So really interesting. It's just another one of those things that has changed and evolved with our mindset when it comes to all of these things over time.
Yeah,
but God's perfect design, I would argue, it makes perfect sense. And we had a discussion with a follow-up appointment we had here with the local doctor, and he absolutely agreed with us.
Yeah, we...
which was interesting.
Yeah.
And refreshing.
He was in agreement that, yes, God has this perfect design, and sometimes the urgency of the medical field of like, get this done, get this done, get this done.
It's corrupted.
It doesn't necessarily look at nature, and it's become so medicalized, or medicalized is not a word.
It can be. We can make it a word. You want to embrace it?
I feel like I'm Trump now, and I'm just
official.
like creating words. Medicalized. It's become very medicalized. It's become very medical. How would you word that?
Sure. Medicalized.
Medicalized.
Just run with it. Just commit.
So anyway, she recognizes this as well. And then she also refused the Hep B. Now, Hep B is contracted 2 ways. 1, it's an STD, or 2, through needles.
Bloodborne
dirty
pathogen,
needles.
Yes.
So there was some person that was like in her comment section saying like, yeah, I refuse this too. And I said, how is my baby going to get Hep B in the first 2 years of its life? Can I just wait till it's 2?
Or HPV or tetanus shots, which are also on the schedule for like, all of these things. They make absolutely zero sense.
Yeah,
no sense.
Is your baby going to be like, like
well,
rusty
the thing that I hate
wire?
about it so much, I vividly remember just the act of you have this fresh, pure life. In the case of Nevaeh, who I vividly recall, and immediately we're like, hey, we're going to start jabbing away at your new fresh child here, Dad. Sorry.
And things like vitamin K, which sound it's a vitamin,
it sounds,
right?
Very holistic.
Yeah, it's got heavy metals in it. It's got preservatives. Yes. It's got the aluminum. Like, you have to research this stuff. And so she refused it. With her second child, they threatened CPS. They said, you're not doing what we're recommending, therefore we could call CPS on you.
Which is crazy.
She did a really in-depth podcast on that a while ago because she was really upset by it. Well, now she just had baby Roman, who is her 3rd child, little boy, right after we had Micah. And it seems like everybody's having babies right now. Like the week we had Micah, there were so many people that had babies.
Brett Cooper's pregnant.
Yeah.
A lot of babies,
Yeah. Mini Cooper. So anyway, she had her third child, and CPS literally knocked on her door when she went home with baby Roman. She checked herself out after 24 hours. She's like, we're good here. And so there's a lot of people saying, well, why are you not having a home birth if this is how it is? And I think her husband's a little nervous about it. I'm curious to see if they have a fourth child, if there'll be like enough of the CPS hospital stuff. It's scary when you go to a hospital for the right reasons. You're trying to have a safe birth. This is like just in case, even if you're really crunchy and holistic, and you choose a hospital birth because you never know. Like, I understand why people fear home birth. I totally get it. And yes, I have those same fears. So you go, you're trusting, like, this is just in case, everything went well, I'm going to have some ownership over this. And now all of a sudden you're being threatened by CPS, which happened to us also, but at a well visit. You weren't there. You would have lost it on this doctor. It was a well visit that I took Eli to. It was
back when we used to do well visits.
Yeah, back when we used to do well visits. So I called them unwell visits because I swear every single time I took my kid to a well visit and they were well, they would end up getting like some kind of virus. Don't let your kids play with the choo-choo train and
reminder,
the waiting
Melissa,
room.
Monster germaphobe.
I'm just saying.
This is how it happens.
It built over time. So I would take them to the office. Some kid would have the flu there in the waiting room. Everyone's playing with the magnetic train. All your kids have the flu. So I took them to a well visit, and Nevaeh was there. It wasn't even for her. It was for Kira and for Eli. Just get their weight checked and all of that. And he was like, are we doing any, pokes today? And I'm saying that for the internet. And I was like, no, not today. And he's like, well, I'm looking at their schedule and it's looking like there's none on here. And so
was this our awesome Jewish pediatrician? Somebody else?
We had to, when we moved, I don't know if he left the area or whatever. So we lost our
Oh, that's
Jewish
right. He went to like
pediatrician.
another, we had this great pediatrician for
good.
such a long time. We loved him. He was so patient with us because
We're nuts.
we
Question everything.
we're a little nuts. So with like the
Bunch of
vaccine
crunchy.
schedule, we would never follow it to a T. Even when we were vaccinating our kids, we would always go in there and
Back
say
when
like
we were.
2 pokes tops, and we'll push everything back.
And then it went to 1.
And then it
went to none.
it
And
just-
he was respectful.
Very respectful. I think
Because
there
we're
was
the
some.
parents.
I think there was some internal like okay, but never openly expressed that. Was very respectful and like I said, very patient with us. Loved that guy. Great doctor.
Yeah. Then we got this new guy and he was just not like, he had a schedule. He wanted that kickback. And that was at the point where I was like, we're done with all of this. And through my research, and these are my children and I'm in charge of their well-being, he did not like that. So he asked if he could talk to the kids alone, which I refused.
No.
I'm like, I am not leaving this room.
No.
And he's like, well, I need to talk to your daughter about some stuff. And I was like,
No, you do not.
And then the stuff that he started saying to her, I found actually very inappropriate and it made her uncomfortable.
Such as?
He started talking to her about if she was being active in an inappropriate way or whatever, which I would consider inappropriate. He considered totally appropriate.
This was at what age?
She was probably 11.
Crazy.
And I'm like, okay. And I told him, okay, this conversation's over because you're making my daughter uncomfortable. I could see her physically like squirming in her chair. And she kept looking at me like, why is an adult man asking me these questions?
Imagine how that goes for those kids in the instances where you do not have those assertive parents who are like, no,
They leave the room.
They just go along
Yeah.
with it. Yeah, I'll leave the room. You can have this very frank, open, very, I would say inappropriate and uncomfortable conversation with my 11-year-old child.
Yeah. And he just had a creepy factor to him. Like there was just something weird about this guy. He gave me the creep. I was never going to leave my kids alone with this guy. I don't care if he's a pediatrician.
Yeah, I don't care who you are. Not gonna
And like there was a nurse in the room and she was kind of like looking at me like, oh my gosh, like she almost had like a I'm sorry look on her face. And then he said, based on her age, I'm recommending that she start getting the 3, the HPV shot. What was it called?
I don't remember.
Gosh, I forgot what it's called. So it's supposed to prevent cervical cancer if they contract HPV.
Okay, now I remember this story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then I said, nope, she won't be needing that. I'm going to teach my daughter how to conduct herself appropriately and how to not get HPV. And we're not going to be vaccinating for this. And he said, well, she's still going to get it. And I'm like, well, not everybody gets it. He's like, everybody gets it. And I thought, I don't have it. So not everybody needs to go out and get it. And if she does get that, she can make that decision on her own, whether or not she wants this vaccination, but I'm not giving it to my 11-year-old. And he said, well, I'm just going to go ahead and note that in her chart so that when she gets HPV and then gets deadly cervical cancer, she can sue you.
Yeah.
That's what the pediatrician said. When she gets HPV and she gets cervical cancer, she can sue you.
Such an
I'm
out
gonna
of
note
line,
that.
over the top statement to make aloud to a parent.
I swiped my kids up so fast. And I was like, we're leaving. We're done here. The nurse followed me out and apologized to me in the hallway. She was like, I'm so sorry. That was so inappropriate.
Yeah, it's so good that I wasn't there for that.
Yeah.
Because it would have been a problem.
Yeah. So I tell Nevaeh all the time, I'm like, well, if you want to sue us later, it's noted in your chart. So somewhere in Nevaeh's medical chart is a note that mom refused to protect. He said, I'm noting that you refused to protect her against cervical cancer.
So this was our experience, and it speaks to the same thing that's going on with Candace Owens right now. So
Yes.
did they do like a home visit? CPS actually showed up at her home? Is that what
I'm
happened?
going to go ahead and say she probably did not allow them in her house.
Oh, you listened to it? I didn't. I'm asking.
She didn't get into it very much. It was her very first podcast back from maternity leave. And it was her first live. It was just maybe a week ago. And she briefly talks about it. I'm sure she'll get into it more when she's back from maternity leave.
It's such a scary thing that's how, I mean, I'm not opposed to CPS. In my experience in law enforcement, there were a number of occasions where we were called out to assist them at these homes to where, a complaint had been generated, some concerns. And, of course, I'm all for checking in on kids and making sure that they are in a happy, healthy situation. And
I mean, that sounds wrong the way that you say that. Like, and I know what you mean, but like to clarify on here,
what do you mean?
I don't think we should be checking in on kids to make sure that they're in a
not
healthy
at random,
situation.
But the hope would be that, hey, if somebody expresses concern, like that doesn't get swept under the rug, and now there's a situation where some intervention is necessary, and that kid in the meantime is being abused or neglected. Like I see the purpose behind it, and I think you should err on the side of caution without overstepping your bounds.
I would say if warranted, I see.
Yeah, but how do you make that determination unless you check in on a kid?
Well, you can't just be checking in on everyone's kids. Like that's
like
such
I said,
a gross.
I think you can check in without overstepping your bounds. So, and that's always I always err on the side of caution in these situations. I would tell the CPS worker. I would tell the CPS worker ahead of time, even when they were trying to present, because I told you they would present these facts, which were really just the initial report that they received on their end about whether it be allegations of abuse or neglect. And they're like, hey, we need to pull this kid. I'm like, well, again, we can't make that determination without gathering more facts and information. So we would check in, and most of the time, things were okay, not necessarily ideal, but sufficient to where I felt comfortable, because in Washington State, only police officers have the authority and ability to actually revoke
Really?
custody.
I thought CPS could do that.
Nope. They need to call us out to actually do it. Either it needs to be done with a judge's order, or if we make the determination on scene, we have the ability to actually place these children in protective custody, which is never a fun ordeal to have to go through. But, with the CPS workers, and this is just me speaking from my own personal opinion and personal experience, they're oftentimes so overzealous in wanting to snatch these kids up from their families, which I mean, I guess I understand to a certain extent, because that is the purpose.
They've probably seen the worst of the worst too.
They see the worst of the worst, and that's the entire purpose of their position is to look out for kids. And I think they're acting in a way that is, they're trying to do the right thing, but I think they were just overzealous about things very oftentimes. I even had one instance of a CPS employee kind of getting into a verbal dispute with me after I said, like, no, I'm not taking this, I'm not removing this kid. I'm not taking these parents' child away. It's not going to happen. And we went back and forth. The supervisor was even called out because she was like complaining on me. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. Sorry. It's my call to make, not happening. Since this has been such a busy time for us, I was so happy when our Delete Me report came through this month, because it showed us that even though we're busy with something so very important, scammers and data brokers never rest.
Yeah, for 3 years now, we have relied on Delete Me to help keep our personal information offline, and they also happen to be a sponsor of today's episode. So if you are online at all, you are at risk. For example, those random phishing calls and those emails that we all get? Well, they're a sign that your personal information is going around and being sold online, which puts you at a much higher risk for scammers and even worse, identity theft.
So when we first signed up for Delete Me, they found hundreds of listings with our private data, but thankfully their privacy experts were able to have them removed on our behalf, saving us so much time and frustration. And the cool thing about Delete Me is they're always continually scanning the web to make sure that our data doesn't pop up again.
Yeah, these data brokers literally scour government sites, public information sites, and even your own social media pages in search of your name, your birthday, your past addresses, your social security number, and even your family members. They then package it all up and they create a profile on you, and then they sell it to other data brokers, companies, and sadly, sometimes even scammers.
Unfortunately, you can't always control whether or not you're the target of one of these data brokers, but you can make it more difficult by taking a proactive approach to securing your online information like we did with the help of Delete Me. Just click the link down below or go to joindeleteme.com/GSL and use our promo code GSL to get 20% off all consumer plans. So I don't know, it's a really bizarre circumstance, but in cases like this, I'm just like
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
So
you checked out of the hospital early where you weren't even required to go.
Right. You as a parent have the right to refuse all of these things.
Yeah.
But now because you were refusing it, there are potential legal ramifications that come with that and custodial ramifications.
Yeah.
No.
Like you really think Candace Owens is not taking care of her children? That's laughable.
Your child better be heavily neglected or show signs of abuse, bruises, cuts, all that, and they are articulating that to me, and you don't have an explanation for it. Fine, I've done it. Unfortunately, there were moments and situations where it had to be done.
I've actually done it too. So
but this is crazy.
I've done it too. Like when I was student teaching in North Dakota, we had a little boy. And I was student teaching second grade, and the teacher and I went back and forth. Do we call CPS on this little
mandatory
buddy?
Reporter?
He had the worst double ear infection that we've ever seen. And he would just sit there in class and hold his ears, and something was up. And then 1 week he came to school in the same clothes every day. And he smelled really bad, like he hadn't showered.
So neglect.
He looked like he was super hungry. We kept feeding him. She was bringing him like these bran muffins in the morning to eat, and he was starving. We figured out that mom had gone to visit dad, who was in prison in a different state, left the second grader in charge of the 1.5-year-old. He was leaving the 1.5-year-old at home while he went to school.
Yeah, so child endangerment.
Complete, like these kids were alone.
Yeah.
And it was horrible. Like when they got into the house, like the 1.5-year-old was alone in her crib. He was feeding her bottles. He was in the second grade.
It's crazy.
And yeah, I mean, like, okay, so there's situations like that where like a teacher
completely warranted, yes,
notices patterns, bruising, being really dirty, being hungry. There's patterns where it's warranted, but they would love to be able to go into homes and
snatch kids up
and just really monitor every home situation. And that's when you end up being Denmark. Denmark does that. They go and they will check on families unannounced. And I think that's crazy. And they do it in Greenland and they do it in Denmark, where you actually have to take parental competency tests to see if you're fit to be a parent while pregnant. And then you have to continue taking these tests as a parent. So really at any time, they can go, you didn't pass your test, we're going to remove your child. And so there's actually a case right now where this Inuit woman, she was born in Greenland, but she's lived in Denmark for 20 years now. And her name's Kira, and she lost her baby at the hospital because she failed her competency test. And there's like ink blocks in this, so it's
like a psychological analysis.
Yeah, it's like a combination of things. But what it doesn't take into account is the Inuit community has some language barriers, and they also do things differently. They do a lot of silent parenting and things like that. And it's different than what Denmark recommends or what they consider to be good parenting, because there's a cultural difference there.
Right.
And so this woman failed her test. This lady, Kira, fails her test of this adorable baby. And at the hospital, 2 days after giving birth, she has to hand over her child to Danish authorities. This child is now put into foster care. There was nothing wrong with her. She loved this baby. She would have cared for it. And she's still fighting for custody. So it's been 5 months. She's missed 5 months of her daughter's life.
And the baby's how old?
The baby's 5 months old now. And she just went to court for a new hearing, lost the hearing. So now she has to go for a new hearing, and she's trying to get her child back.
But you're saying there was a language barrier with that because she is a native Inuit Greenlander, and apparently they have their own language.
She speaks. I mean, she actually speaks English and stuff. So
is that her native?
I don't know what her native language is, but there was just some cultural differences why she didn't pass this test.
Yeah, that's
and
just crazy.
Apparently it's becoming more common. And so they're getting rid of the test now, but that doesn't help her gain custody back.
Like I said, I'm all for societal safety nets, especially when it pertains to children. But we've got to be measured in our approach.
Yeah, and we need to understand
we can't
that
just be
people parent
snatching kids
differently.
up because we have some arbitrary standard and we're deeming people unfit to raise their own children based on this standard.
Well, this is why medical freedom
Craziness.
and educational freedom is so important.
Yeah.
And it's something that we need to pay attention to and we need to fight for. Because if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. And we saw that in 2020 and 2021. We saw
What are you talking
how
about?
medical mandates can take away your freedom and your liberty. And if we allow that, which we did, I mean, we didn't, but like a lot of people did, and they had to for their jobs or for military or whatever.
Gosh. Yeah.
Or for free travel. And we could see that come back. And we have to make sure that we never allow that to happen as a society, because then you end up being Denmark, where they can come into your home at any time, say, you're not doing what the government has said that you need to do as a parent, and therefore we're going to remove your child.
Scary.
Yeah, it's really scary because, I mean, we know our children the best as parents. We want the best for them. We're trying to do our research, and we have to have these medical freedoms because they can say, well, all of this is necessary. I mean, now the recommended dose of pokes is 72.
72.
That's horrific.
And if you review the list, so many of them are it's inexplicable. Like why?
Well, now they have a 6-in-1. So I just saw that last week, a 6-in-1. And they're like, well, it's less pokes. It's 6 different things. And it's recommended that you start in a 6-week-old baby for the 6-in-1. So your 6-week-old baby, that is a newborn, that is an infant. Sometimes they still have those little turtle knees.
That's Micah, almost. Micah. Another week and a half.
One. And the amount of preservatives and heavy metals in the 6-in-1 is like, it's so scary. And it's like the MMR, but then they added 3 other things to it. And it's new, it's just coming out. And it's like, oh my gosh, people, please don't put that in your 6-week-old.
Let us know what you guys think about this. We've had some pretty limited discussions on here about immunizations, but it seems like so much. I mean, like chickenpox.
Well, can we even just
I had chickenpox.
delay? Like,
I assume you had chickenpox.
I had chickenpox, and then like our parents all had measles.
I'm sure many of you out there had measles and chickenpox, and now we are immunizing for that. When, hey, look, we're also here. I'm not saying that there aren't drawbacks and risks that are associated with these. What?
They're saying on the news, 2 children died from the measles. But if you dive into those stories, like really dive into those stories,
there's more to it.
There was more to it. They were given inappropriate antibiotics that their body responded to. And yes, they had the measles, but then they were getting better from the infection. And one of them went to the hospital with like pneumonia and something else. And they put her on the wrong antibiotics, and then she went into shock, and that's actually what led to her death. And her parents are saying, please do not use our child's tragedy
to push your propaganda.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm all for, I just do whatever you want with your children, but I think it's important, and it's definitely lacking that people have this informed consent, right? To where you are being given the full litany of information when it comes to a certain immunization. It's so many people just go with the flow because you are sitting there conferring with your doctor and you are entrusting them as the authority on the matter. It's very difficult, I think, especially for young parents, which is certainly true for us. Like we mentioned earlier, like
because you don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. You're entrusting this medical professional, and you don't feel comfortable with asserting, your parental rights and asking the right questions, because we are so oftentimes very ill-informed on these matters. So it's incredibly frustrating. But yeah, I would encourage, because again, this is another thing that is changing and evolve for us over time with diving into these matters and issues. And there's nothing more important than shoving and sticking an unknown substance into your child. We none of us fully know exactly what it is that's in these immunizations and these substances, but come to find out over time, we can make a pretty safe correlation between so much of what we're seeing now, whether it be autism or ADHD, other health drawbacks, and these immunizations to go along with, the American diet. There are so many things that we we don't devote a lot of time or thought into that are so incredibly detrimental to our health.
Yeah, we're seeing a major rise in infertility in young people
Yeah,
too.
it's
And I'm not
terrifying.
saying that that's what's causing it, but something's causing it.
Something's
It could be
doing
our
it.
food. It could be food dye. I'm so glad that we're finally having these discussions. I'm so glad that finally it's like, okay, we're getting rid of these dyes. We're getting rid of these preservatives. People are now aware of seed oils. I didn't even know about seed oils and vegetable oils and everything until we talked to Bethany Hamilton, and
Great
it like
information.
changes the way we ate.
The more we delve into this, the crazier we get.
The more you dive into it, the more you're like, okay, we need to make some changes. We have gotten rid of all fragrances in our home,
Yeah.
our laundry soap, our dish tabs. I have got some murky. If anybody knows of any really organic, natural dish tabs that don't make your wine glasses look like clouded
Cloudy.
glass.
Yeah.
Like my mom's like, is this clean? I'm like, it's fine. It's the baking soda tabs. It's just like baking soda residue on everything.
But it's so true. We don't ask questions. We just go with the flow because we entrust these figures of authority, right? When it comes to our diet, when it comes to the things that we inject into our body,
Well-
when it comes to the things that we place topically on ourselves, surround ourselves with, it's the materials that we.
Sunscreen, Glade
all of it.
plugins. Like if you have Glade plugins, you go unplug those right now. Like, no, I'm serious.
But they smell so good.
Hormonal so yeah, like fresh country breeze and clean, crisp linen, like the scent of laundry soap. I know it smells good,
great.
but
Don't get me
it's
wrong.
literally like a combination of 3,500 chemicals that create that mountain crisp air scent. It's so toxic and it's a hormonal disruptor. And I feel like when we got all of that crap out of our home, and they say if you wouldn't eat it, don't put it on your skin and or in your hair. So we've switched to all natural everything. I mean, like, we just went through with that little app and we were just tossing stuff.
Yucca app.
And there's so many apps now. There's the Olive app, the Yucca app, and you can use these apps to go through and throw away everything that you bought.
And it sounds really weird, but there are really good natural alternatives, and you will notice a difference. I promise you. I was just telling you about like my hair.
And your hair gets better.
My hair.
My hair is
feels much
growing
better.
again, guys. And
And so many of you have commented and noticed that about how great Melissa looks, and a lot of
it was pregnancy.
A lot of it's pregnancy and postpartum, but a lot of it, I would say, we can also attribute to the fact that we're using just more natural products.
Well, I started taking like colostrum. I started taking collagen. You were taking like all these beef supplements.
Yeah.
We got rid of fragrances in our home. We switched to all natural everything. And then I got pregnant at 41. And I kind of wonder if like a little bit of it wasn't the fact that like we got healthy and then we got pregnant. Because we were getting pregnant for like 10 years doing the same thing. And then all of a sudden, the year that we cleaned up our diet and everything, bam.
You will feel better and look better.
You're fertile.
Yeah. I mean, there are people that experience very drastic differences.
Yeah.
I've even wondered if like my hair loss even wasn't like a part of like all the crap I've been putting on
Did it
myself
stop
over the
falling
years.
out?
It hasn't stopped. falling out,
Maybe you
but-
need to take the collagen and the colostrum.
You know, walk in and have beef tallow on my forehead.
Big red light mask. If I walk in and you're in one of those masks and all I see is like red glowing from your eyes.
I will tell you that I looked into it. I'm not joking.
Grounding sheets. We could get way, way crunchier than we
I'm not
already
opposed
are.
to any of this stuff. I don't do all of those things, but I'm not opposed to it at all. Whether it be like the sun exposure, the grounding.
You see a red light
any of it.
coming out of our house.
Next week, I'm sitting here with a mask on.
It works, guys.
It works.
We got little baby fuzz coming out.
Do it. All right. We didn't get to everything it is we wanted to get to, but we got baby Micah. It's probably waiting for mama to return. So let's
I
start whining.
literally feel it right now.
Are you engorged?
I feel like he's crying in the house and like I
Probably.
feel the tingle. There's a
Big thanks and shout out to
can
Nevaeh
feel
for
it crying
babysitting
from
for the
that.
last hour. This is going to become our new routine.
yeah.
And maybe if he is like napping or something like that, you guys will see he might come back in here again. I know last week we said we weren't going to do that, but it's a possibility.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a possibility. I think baby will be joining the podcast more and more.
Yeah. All right. Fun discussion, mama. Let's do it again next week.
right.
Big thanks and shout out to all of you out there who are watching and or listening. We so appreciate you. We'll see you here next week. Until then, take care. God bless. We'll see you then.
Living in the new world with an whole soul. These rich men north of Richmond